So in one person, you can do, if you want just want to organize your schedule, that's one person usually, and then somebody else will do writing. You can find all of that in one person. So the writing, the virtual assistants, web design and all of that, simple coding, we will be able to do all of that.
I'm Sean Hessinger, and this is Small Biz in 15, the show where we bring you small business news and tips to make your small business better. Today, Fairlane Raymondo, founder and CEO of Asian Entertainment and Culture, explains how to hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines.
So Fairlane, to start us off, we're going to talk a little bit about virtual assistants and particularly hiring virtual assistants from the Philippines.
Sure.
I mean, this is something you know a little bit about in terms of your work history. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I was born and raised in the Philippines. And before I made my move here in the US, I actually started on the other end of the aisle. I was actually a virtual assistant. I was an offshore worker. I had a full-time job then, but on the side, I would do virtual assistance work for different companies or different people here in the US. I started out like anybody else, just doing paperwork. They would ask me to take down notes, take in calls, any kind of work that I guess are I would say too repetitive for some people to actually be paying the huge amount of per hour rate in the US. So that's how I started. Eventually, as I have gotten used to it, I created my own company in the Philippines where I can actually get more clients. I concentrated in getting clients, and then I hired different people in the Philippines. We did legal work. We did virtual assistance work, creative work, technical work.
Why hire people in the Philippines? What's the benefit?
Well, number one is the cost. I think not just in the Philippines, but basically anywhere in Asia, the cost is really the biggest thing that people consider. The minimum wage in the Philippines is about $20 per day. And that could actually just be the per hour rate in the US. So of course, it all depends on the kind of position that you're looking for in the specialties and the skills and stuff like that. But that is the number one reason. Then the added benefit is at least of all the Asian countries out there or other countries in the world, the Philippines is actually one of the most, if not the most westernized. Of course, you can't compare it to somebody who was born and raised in the US or someone who's actually living here. But still, the influence of US in the Philippines is actually so huge. It influences a lot of our culture. So we really know a lot about the US compared to other Asian countries. So those two things. We speak the language. A lot of people are very surprised when they go to the Philippines. Everybody can actually speak English. Of course, some of them would actually be broken English, but they will understand you. And if you ask a question, you will get an answer. You just need to weave your way into all the grammatical errors. But yeah, it's really the language. So those three benefits.
When you think about some of the other places that people think about hiring virtual assistants from, India and places like that, I would assume that's the same thing you're talking about. But is it also are there other benefits that you can think of?
So I guess now that I'm actually operating a company here, there's a lot of rules and regulations to follow. It changes constantly, so it's kind of hard to keep up. And I'm not saying that you should not follow all of those regulations. Of course you should. It's just that sometimes it does interrupt the process that you have. When you have virtual workers, it's very transactional. It can be as transactional as you want. So you have things that, you set up a process once and it just flows. It's very easy. And then the other thing is that, as I've mentioned before, that we do speak the language. Other countries also, like India, for example, they speak very good English. It's just that their English is actually more British than it is American. So there's a difference in accent. So we also have our own accent, and I don't think you can completely take that away because of course, it's a different culture, different history. But at the very least, ours is much more understandable. Even those that have a heavy Filipino accent, when they speak English, they speak it in such a way that it's easy to understand. So if you're a very impatient person, you're trying to get things done, it's a lot easier if you want to communicate that way. So going back to the process, it's very transactional. You don't have to watch what you're saying. We understand how straightforward Americans can be. So we just, okay, that's what you need. We get it done. And then Filipinos are very, very loyal. A lot of people will tell you that. We're very loyal. Once we lock down on a partnership, we're with you throughout the way. For as long as you treat us fairly, we'll be with you. So you don't have to worry about, oh, okay, they might leave me 7 months from now, and then I'm going to have to retrain everybody else. It will always be smooth.
Are there kinds of tasks or kinds of skills that you're best going to the Philippines as opposed to another source for?
Right.
Perhaps.
One is anything that's creative. The American culture is more consistent with the Philippines on that one. So when it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to designing, we get it better. Because as I've said, we're highly influenced by the Western culture. Because we're highly influenced by Hollywood, even the education system. It's just, we get it more. We get it easier when it comes to aesthetics. Even when, a lot of people don't know this, but we do a lot of writing. So as you know, the difference in the language of the British and the Americans, there's, slight difference, but we're more oriented towards the American one. So we do a lot of writing, even the flow. We write, we get it easier. So the only thing that now that I'm experiencing is that I do need somebody still local to edit everything, just to make sure that it still sounds very, very local. Because as I've said, no matter how oriented and immersed we are in the American culture, it's still different when you're here. I found that out when I moved here 10 years ago. It's like, oh, you do a certain thing differently. You call it different. One of the funny experiences that I've had is when I got here in the Philippines, a restroom, we actually call them a comfort room. So when I got here, I was like, oh, where's the comfort room? And nobody knew what I was talking about. And then I realized, yeah, restroom. So where's the restroom? So things like that, small things like that, you still need an editor to do it. But that's easier and of course cheaper than having to pay somebody local to do some of the simple writings. So those things, and even the values, I guess we get the American values easier than other countries. So those little things that it adds up to something really big.
When you say a virtual assistant, you're really often talking about more than a freelancer. You're talking about somebody who's basically not just going to do one task.
Right.
They're going to do a couple of different tasks. Maybe we should mention some of the other things you might want to hire a virtual assistant to do.
Oh, yeah. Anything actually. So the Philippines is also very much into tech things. So if you do have a lot of, small entrepreneurs in the US who may need website design, website construction, uploading of their contents in there, writing the contents. Here in the Philippines, you can find it all in one person. I know that India is very much known for their tech industry, as they should be. They're very good, but we're not so bad ourselves. This is another joke that I keep on saying, but it's actually not a joke. We have the best hackers in the world. I said they're so good, nobody has caught them yet. So, we're very good on the tech side. A lot of especially the young children of today in the Philippines, they get to learn everything. They do web design so early. They do coding so early, even though that's not their specialty. It's just a part of the curriculum. So in one person, you can do, if you want to organize your schedule, that's one person usually, and then somebody else will do writing. You can find all of that in one person. So the writing, the virtual assistants, web design and all of that, simple coding, we will be able to do all of that. Legal writing as well. So there's a lot of law firms that would actually work with Philippine offshore workers that will do some of the simple, repetitive things, court filings that they need to do. If it's just a simple fill in the blanks, we can do it. We are part of our education system is also learning a little bit about your laws and your regulations. So that's easier for us as well. There are legal schools in the Philippines that actually teaches legal stuff in America, because they know that a lot of lawyers in the Philippines would actually want to transition in the US. So all of those, and we're very good writers as well. So I think that's one good advantage. Like in a lot of other countries, if they are into tech, they'll just do web design. That's their specialty and they'll do it. All of that thing, if you're a small entrepreneur, you're just starting your business, you can find everything that you need in 1 or 2 people.
Let me ask you another thing that occurs to me, which is hiring somebody when they're thousands of miles away.
Right.
This is obviously a challenge to a lot of people, and a lot of people just jump on a website or whatever, but you don't know the person. You have reviews and things like that. How do you go about, are there companies or websites that specialize, if you know that there are certain, maybe there are certain sources or certain areas that you'd like to specialize in, like the Philippines or something like that? Are there organizations? You said your business was kind of based on that, your first business.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Well, one of the regular companies that I use is Filipino Offshore. That's the company name. So if you just go to filipinooffshore.com, they'll be able to help you with anything that you need. And then the other, probably the most popular, is Upwork. So you just search for Filipino workers and you can actually search by country as well. So that's easier. The advantage of working for Upwork and also for Filipino Offshore, because they're so well established, is that you don't have to think about your accounting. You're not working, the offshore worker is not the one that you're working with. You're working for the company with Upwork and with Filipino offshore workers. So it's easier when it comes to paperwork. So those 2 sites are the most credible for me.
How do I start figuring out how much this would cost me versus hiring somebody here or hiring a part-time employee in the US to do the same thing, which is probably much more expensive.
Way more expensive. So as you know, you're an entrepreneur yourself, so I'm sure you will know this, that even though the minimum is actually $20 or $16, it's actually the real cost to an employer is twice that much. So, but if you go to the Philippines, if you compute the daily rate of $20 per day, you're already saving so much money. So you can compute it that way. Just how many hours will it take for one person to do a certain task, and then give a little allowance, and then you can base your pay from there.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes you have to avoid when you're planning to hire either a virtual assistant from the Philippines or really anywhere where you're not able to directly supervise somebody?
Right. Well, one is the internet connection. There are certain areas in the Philippines that don't have good internet connection. So the one thing that you need to watch out for is to make sure that you have allowances and you have plans if the person actually loses internet connection. And it does happen. I mean, even here in the US, it happens. So you do need to give allowance to that.
Right.
What I like doing is to make sure that they actually have 2 sources of internet connections. Now, even though they may have 2, if a storm hits the Philippines, there's nothing much you can do. So that's one. You just need to make sure that there are allowances. There are things that you can watch out, that you can revert to if something fails. Second is expectations. Just because Philippines is known for being loyal and for being efficient, it doesn't mean it's a home run every time, right? You will make the wrong hires at some point. So you do need to, again, make allowances for that and sort of level your expectations. Third is that don't expect us to master everything in the US, because a person is not living in the US. So again, you need to make allowances for that. You need to make sure that your workflow is already set so that when you train the person that you want to hire, then everything is already set. You do need to do your own due diligence. So especially in a website like Upwork, there are reviews. So you need to actually go through the reviews, see what other employers have said about this person. And even if, but also there's a flip side. There could be some spiteful employers who, just have way too much time on their hands and just trying to destroy the career of a person. So you also do need to exercise some understanding and actually dig deeper, a little deeper, so that you'll know and get to know the quality of the person.
Well, that's it for another episode of Small Biz in 15. Thanks again to Fairlane Raymondo of Asian Entertainment and Culture for making this program possible. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show, and please leave a comment and let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future programs. For more small business news and tips, join us at smallbiztrends.com.